Hello! To be a successful historian, there are many skill sets you must have. In this video, I will be talking about 5 important practices historians engage in to be literate within their discipline. Historical literacy is the ability to understand and communicate effectively within historical disciplines. It is important to teach historical literacy in the classroom to prepare students with this skill set, because historical literacy not only prepares students for careers involving history, but how to engage in the world around them. The first disciplinary practice we will talk about today is critical literacy. According to Dr. Rick Bodick, critical literacy is having a healthy skepticism. The second disciplinary practice is contextualization. Contextualization is the ability to read, view, or hear something and be able to compare and contrast it with other sources. Simply, contextualization is thinking about something in the context of something else. The third disciplinary practice is argumentation. Argumentation is the ability to take a stance on a topic and effectively explain it. It is also the ability to understand others' arguments and respond to them productively. The fourth disciplinary practice is storytelling, which is the ability to communicate in a way that tells a story. The last disciplinary practice is historical empathy. Historical empathy is the ability to understand how people in the past thought and felt. A lot of these disciplinary practices go hand in hand and use one another to develop skills, so there is a bit of crossover between the practices. Our first disciplinary practice is critical literacy. In order to think critically about a source, one must be able to check sources and evaluate their validity. With the invention of the internet, Google, and social media, a lack of sources is not the issue when searching for information. It is the ability to evaluate those sources. In Heather Coffey's dissertation at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, she teaches that by offering students the opportunity to review appropriate internet resources, songs, television programming, and advertisements, as well as many other visual mediums, students have exposure to popular texts they can analyze outside of school as well. She also says that supplementary texts also provide the context for students to confront social issues that are often avoided by canonical works and/or are not covered in dated textbooks. Students have the opportunity to critique themes and issues similar to those found in traditional texts, but they can also look at other mediums. Patricia Elmore and Juliana Coleman also write that analyzing political memes help to discuss false binaries, determine group identities, macro and micro socio-political contexts, and strategic visual arrangements. With news accounts and some of today's political leaders using memes to communicate information, it is important to view those critically as well as news reports. One awesome resource that teachers can use to teach critical literacy is allaboutexplorers.com. This is a website with articles that appear reliable, but each article is sprinkled with false information. For instance, one article says that Ferdinand Magellan was shot with an AK-47. This can help to teach students to not trust everything they view and to search for reliable evidence. Next up, we have contextualization. Contextualization is very important when dealing with history. In an interview with Dr. John Hale, he claims that putting different texts into conversation with one another is a huge bottleneck with students in his discipline. He also says that it would be good for teachers to assess using document-based questions, or DBQs. DBQs are forms of essays where the student is given a variety of sources, for example, political cartoons, memoirs, and news articles, and they're instructed to answer a question using all of those sources. This helps students develop the skill of comparing and contrasting sources and analyzing how one may influence the other. Teachers can also use graphic novels to teach contextualization. Elmore and Coleman argue that graphic novels can help teach geographic contextualization through embedded maps, long shots, iconic images at established place, and narration boxes. They also say that graphic novels can teach temporal contextualization through timelines and image-based time references. They say that they can teach social contextualization by the positioning of characters in various visual references. They also say that they can teach political contextualization by referring to symbolic images or physical positioning of characters. One excellent resource for teachers to use to help their students develop the skill of contextualization is this series of primary sources. This collection is a series of newspaper articles from the 1920s leading up to the stock market crash of 1929.